Can I get a rebuttal? Can I get a rebuttal before the vote? Testing 1, 2. Okay. Before I respond to the actual censure, the words critical race theory are going to be discussed and have been discussed. So I think it's important that you understand my view for Gateway School District as well as what I'm opposed to, because the crux of the problem seems to be that one side of the political aisle has a different definition of critical race theory than the other political side, making this, in my opinion, a political issue. Rather than say I am opposed to or in favor of critical race theory, I will tell you specifically what I take issue with and what I believe. I believe Gateway should continue to be a school that delivers academic excellence, offers a diverse and inclusive environment to all of our students, attracts, retains, and celebrates our top quality faculty, and I do think you guys are top quality, by the way, and provides a curriculum and culture free of any political or ideological agenda, and makes certain that parents have a powerful voice in the direction of the school. Parents have a powerful voice. Okay, is that better? We must teach all children, regardless of color, that you are the writer of your own life, and any system set in place that threatens your dignity or your freedom, you have the power to eliminate and to overcome. I am against judging people collectively based on the color of their skin. I do not believe that all black people are oppressed, nor do I believe all white people are oppressors. I am against teaching our kids that racism is woven into the American flag. I do not believe that being patriotic is racist. I reject okay, waiting for the mic to come on. I reject the idea that America is systemically racist, although I do believe that individual acts of racism occur. And lastly, my race describes me, it does not define me. You will hear that people opposed to critical race theory are against such things like teaching about the evils of slavery because they are white and it hurts their feelings. That is not true at all, just like I'm not against teaching of the evils of Nazi Germany because I am German. Writer and philosopher George Santayana is credited with saying, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." History should be taught so that these things are not forgotten and never repeated. I do not believe that teaching Black history is synonymous with teaching critical race theory, nor am I against students having examples in texts or role models who look like them. These are untruths that I take offense to that were spoken in the interview I referenced in my comments, for which I am being censured. Now, I would like to respond directly to each of Mr. McIntyre's points of censure. Number one is the assertion that I disclosed confidential information. Well, that is false, because at no time did the board have executive session to discuss candidates for the equity director position. At no time has administration, even up till today, provided the names of candidates who applied. My statement that a certain person who is an employee was interested in the job was based on the actions of that person in public, on TV, on YouTube, and also due to board members receiving emails from the community advocating for this person to have the job even before the position was posted. I think it's pretty safe to assume someone wants a job when community members are advocating for them to have it. Making an assumption like this is based on common sense, not confidential information. His second point of censure was that I made disparaging comments about the administrative position. Well, Mr. McIntyre, I have every right to speak out against a position that I do not support. I voted no against it. Our superintendent and our 2 assistant superintendents have repeatedly stated at public meetings in May that this is not a position that they recommend either. You cannot censure me for not agreeing with you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I side with our administrators, who all have PhDs and over 60 years experience in education, who we have hired to put in charge of running this school. What experience does Mr. McIntyre have that enables him to drive a course that is against their recommendations? Third was the disparaging comments about an employee or applicant. Again, the disparaging comments are not about the applicant's role as a teacher at Gateway, but rather about her comments in public interviews on her own time directly related to teaching critical race theory in school. She let herself be interviewed. She is no longer just an employee. In fact, one could argue that the news deemed her an expert in her topic, and as such, I have a right to comment. Dr. Short, before I go any further, is it correct to state that critical race theory is not approved curriculum at Gateway?
That is correct. We have a robust curriculum, K through 12, and as a 30-year veteran educator, administrator, former principal here at Gateway High School for nearly 20 years, assistant superintendent, and now superintendent for going on 6 years. I have been involved with my colleagues in multiple curriculum revisions. And I must first acknowledge the work of our teachers, because one thing we have to remember is we have seasoned veteran teachers who have given their lives to educating our children of the Gateway School District, Monroeville and Pitcairn. And they are committed to ensuring that they are offering the best education possible to our children. And at no point in time has critical race theory been a part of our curriculum. It will not be a part of the curriculum moving forward because the curriculum is in place. It needs to be board approved, and there is a process in place. And I do know we have a number of teachers here tonight who are nodding their heads, who understand this process. And it's something that we must keep in mind as we move forward. It is not a part of our K-12 curriculum. Thank you.
I was just looking for a yes or no, but that was pretty good. Thank you. Any employee of Gateway has a First Amendment right to free speech, but I also have the same right to criticize or publicly disagree with those opinions. Being an employee of Gateway does not protect you from criticism of things you say outside the realm of employment. I was not criticizing this person's job performance, but rather opinions given on a public interview about critical race theory. Let me give you only a few examples of things that I took issue with as stated by this employee on YouTube interview. There are many more, but for the sake of time, I'm going to highlight some. Quote, "We are going back to Jim Crow policies. White people don't want to talk about slavery. People who are against CRT were referred to not by this individual, but by another member of the TV show, maggot brains. Banning CRT is a straight-up attack on Black history and is in itself racist. Banning CRT means only whiteness is allowed here." The interviewee also says that PA legislators want to ban discussions on equity, inclusion, and slavery, and they are trying to legislate white supremacy. and the proposed bill would make it illegal to talk about the war on drugs, war on poverty. The bill does not say those things, and I have a copy of the bill with me for anyone who would like to read it. This one really probably got to me the most. Celebrating Independence Day is not for Black and brown students because it is not inclusive to them. And the same was said about Columbus Day. It was also said that if you ban CRT, you are continuing to harm kids by not including them. People who oppose CRT don't want you to discuss Black people who contribute to society. Opponents of CRT don't want kids to learn about slavery and don't want positive role models for minority students. And lastly, opponents of critical race theory only want to teach a clean, pristine history. I think some of you can see why I spoke out against these things. I just want to say regarding Independence Day, too, I think because I have several family members who served in the military and are currently serving, the Independence Day comment affected me. Our military men and women lay their life down for any American, regardless of skin color, and have laid down their lives for people all over the globe to protect freedom. I understand that you want to celebrate Emancipation Day, Juneteenth, and I have no problem with that. But they are not mutually exclusive to not celebrating Independence Day, which is the great birth of our country. And freedom is the foundation of our great country. So I stand behind my comments that condemn those above statements as being divisive and untrue of someone like myself, who does not believe this political ideology belongs in public school. Lastly, thank you for your patience. I would like to move on to the final accusation, number 4, causing the educator and school district embarrassment concerning the professional reputation. Mr. McIntyre wants to censure me for causing the district embarrassment. This is hypocrisy at its finest. A man who has driven poor decisions to hurt our reputation, a man who is obsessed with Facebook and trolls comments on any view by community members that disagree with him, often inserting expletives in his replies, his favorite being F-U-C-K. I will spell out the expletives in the following examples, but I can assure you he does not spell them out. How about the 1 for the price of 2 athletic trainer, as it is now known around Gateway? Mr. McIntyre ruined the relationship with Allegheny Health Network and Forbes Hospital, embarrassing Dr. Short when he convinced 4 other board members to vote against administration's recommendations for Allegheny Health Network to take over trainers, costing the district probably hundreds and thousands of dollars in future projects that were on the table for discussion and partnership with Allegheny Health Network. The man who stood in front of Gateway doing a TV interview with Sheldon Ingram about a pending lawsuit of our athletic director position, which unfortunately I cannot go into. We all agreed that the board president is a spokesperson for the district, and dragging Gateway through the mud for his personal reasons was an embarrassment. And again, he actually was on TV today, I heard, again, violating the agreement that the board has that our president is the spokesperson for the district. A man who leaked confidential info about an applicant for our athletic director job as he spoke with her attorney when he represents the district she is suing, and when his friends were discussing details of the case on social media. The same man who demanded to sit in on interviews when his brother-in-law was the applicant. A man who said the following things on Facebook to constituents regarding discussion on our safety plan when describing the term social distance to the greatest extent possible. He said, "It doesn't mean we say F-U-C-K it, pack up the building and let it fly." A man who also, when asked if he was fake on social media account by myself that was trolling me, I asked him if he was that fake person, and he said no. If I was going to F-U-C-K with you, I would be straightforward about it. Shall I give you an example? A man who texted me while I was in the new Shop and Save and said, "Nice workout outfit. I have eyes everywhere." A man who, while debating masks on social media, said to a constituent regarding board members, "If you can't talk with a mask on, get a different mask or get the F-U-C-K out of the room. I'm done being nice about it." Asked Mrs. Warning about the time he got angry at her in executive session and told her to F off and stormed out of the meeting. And most recently, when the residency of another board member was being questioned on another social media site, I don't have to go into this because somebody already did, and he said to that person, "Eat a D-I-C-K and stop spreading bull S-H-I-T rumors." Mr. McIntyre may not have liked the tone of the conversation, but the same is true for the toxic pages he contributes to on a daily basis. Bottom line is that residency is a requirement to be on a school board, and questioning someone's future plans after a life event like marriage when you presently live with your parents is certainly a valid question, is deserving of an answer, even if it wasn't delivered in a professional manner. The reason I am being censured by these 5 people is because they want to silence me and punish me for publicly calling them out on pushing through a position that was not recommended by administration, and doing so in a way that lacked transparency to the public, and trying to disassociate their support of critical race theory when evidence shows otherwise. For example, none of the questions I asked Mr. McIntyre in the May study session were ever really addressed and answered. The creation of the position was voted on before we even had our budget meeting and before we even knew the staffing recommendations. It was done before we had a job description, and when asked about that, Mr. McIntyre would say, "You get the description when administration completes their interviews and brings the name forward for approval." How is that for transparency? I think it is not transparent. In fact, neither the board or the public had a chance to see the job description before being posted, probably because administration was receiving pressure to hurry up and get it done. Evidence of this can be found in an email sent to Dr. Short and the board July 5th, if anyone would like to do a right to know, by one of these 5 saying, "We need to get a job description because we fear, with several states banning critical race theory in schools, that this could have an adverse effect on the hiring of the position." I then asked what role critical race theory had to play here in this position and received no response. That is enough evidence for me to believe what I said. Why would a board member have concerns over banning critical race theory if it's not going to be a part of our culture and curriculum at Gateway? After all, the equity director job description includes curriculum. Almost done. Another common practice of Mr. McIntyre is to try to silence his opposition and cancel those who have differing opinions. When he found out about the guest speaker invited by the community member to give one side of critical race theory, a side in opposition to him, Mr. McIntyre attempted to get the guest speaker canceled. And then when that didn't work, because they have a right to be here, he made up a fake reason to move him to a smaller venue and texted me to gloat about it. That reason was that this board meeting had to take place at 7, even though the meeting was scheduled from 5 to 6:30, and even 6:15 if needed. This is the same tactic he used with Grace Life Church. Talk about disrespecting members of our community. I have never said this publicly, but 3 other people sitting in this room right now, as my witnesses, heard Mr. McIntyre say that we could not allow Grace Life Church to rent our auditorium because the message of their church isn't in line with the mission statement of the school. I think anyone in the building that day heard the argument that followed that statement, but then he changed his story to make it about masks and safety. That was only a secondary excuse. And he continued to lie when he asked to meet with the pastor of Grace Life Church to explain to him that he couldn't meet at our school any longer because our custodial staff couldn't handle the extra hours. That was 100% false. Our staff actually wanted the overtime because they weren't getting any with all the shutdowns. So his actions took money away from our own employees. The forced eviction by the same board member cost the district $10,000 a month in a 12-year contract. Mr. Brown also said that they were good-paying renters and they paid on time. What could we have done for our students with $120,000 of revenue that we lost because someone didn't agree with the pastor's teaching? The censure isn't about me being unprofessional. They don't care about disparaging comments in public or embarrassing the district. If they did, they would have censured Mr. McIntyre a long time ago. No, this is not about censure. This is about censure. Censorship. Censorship and retaliation of someone who disagrees with them and isn't afraid to call them out on their lack of transparency, their backdoor deals, and their hypocrisy. In closing, I would like to argue that it is not me that is in violation of Board Policy 320, but the teacher that I criticized, because the teacher is advocating for unauthorized curriculum at Gateway and gave undeniable support for critical race theory and how it should not be banned and how it is educational malpractice to ban it. And the only argument my board colleagues can come up with is that it's not the same definition of critical race theory.